Hello and welcome to What the Tech from Boast AI, where we talk with some of the brilliant minds behind new and exciting tech initiatives to learn what it takes to tackle technological uncertainty and eventually change the world. I'm Paul Davenport, Post Resident Tech Journalist. Today I'm thrilled to welcome to the show Sophie Jiang, CEO and co-founder at MoVA Realities. We first connected with Sophie back in November at SAS North in Ottawa, where she took part in a special pitch competition sponsored by Boast and Tech 2. The crowd was wowed with MoVA's mission to solve the hardest problem in business, turning audiences into champions who carry your story forward by putting 3D memories at customers' fingerprints. MoVA helps ensure businesses can turn their brands into 3D experiences where human connection meets scalable innovation. Built on science of memory and crafted with the elegance of technology and art, MoVA helps ensure that brand experiences stand out in a world flooded with content, text, and noise. So it's an incredible mission that's rooted in Sophie's background studying architecture at Princeton and navigating entrepreneurship in Canada. Can't wait to pick her brain on her path through the tech ecosystem and what's on deck for 2026. So without further ado, welcome to the show, Sophie.
Thank you so much, Paul. That was an amazing intro. I'm honestly feeling so flattered already.
Oh, well, I mean it when I say that you really wowed everybody. I know that personally, our team was very, very happy to connect with you just because you really brought the energy at the show. It was also a true demonstration that you know how to work an event and you understand how to engage with people and make sure that these can be actually powerful shows. So couldn't be happier to have you here and couldn't be happier to talk about MoVA too. I know we've connected a bunch. We were talking about architecture last time that we connected and we went pretty deep there. But to kick things off, tell us a little bit more about yourself. I know I alluded to your background a little bit at the top there, but I'd love to hear it from you. How did you get interested in entrepreneurship, in tech, and what brought you to MoVA?
Yeah, thank you. So it's kind of a convoluted pathway because honestly, I was so dedicated to become a licensed architect. And until one day I discovered entrepreneurship. We actually had an accelerator at Princeton University. At that time, I met my co-founder through different kind of classes, and we were so amazed by this power of AR and VR and also how it combines all of our backgrounds from robotics, neuroscience, architecture, and museum studies all in one into creating good experiences for people. So we're like, okay, taking this opportunity to really broaden our imagination and do all kinds of experimentations. So we started at the arts and culture space, and we actually bring one of our experiences to a senior care facility in New Jersey. And when we saw the senior residents, that's like, for example, a 97-year-old grandma, experience our immersive trip to ancient Egypt, they said that this reminds them of a family trip with their late husband 50 years ago. And that was the moment when I realized that, like, when it comes true to us that good experiences really is better than taking a pill. And that can make a great difference in our life experiences. And technology is doing more than just wow people. It actually can connect us better and unlock those relationships and memories. So yeah, and fast forward to today, we see this huge potential in the brand storytelling space because people crave presence, and AR VR is such a great tool to catch attention, create interactive moments, and really tell the stories that sticks. So yeah, that is how it all comes together. But it was really a wonderful kind of navigation and yeah, exploration.
I love how you frame that. I love that story. So I want to call back to a few things that you mentioned there. First up, just want to emphasize too that it was cross-disciplinary. So like you were
Mhm.
at Princeton for architecture, you really want to become a career architect. There was the accelerator program, but AR and VR combined a lot of disciplines into one kind of arena where people could take action and make a difference. I know we had Steven from VisWorks on the show a few weeks ago. He was another person who works in the geospatial space. I still need to connect you guys. So that was a good reminder to make sure that we
Yes.
can make sure our ecosystems are still delivering. But similar ethos and energy to what he was saying and to what you were saying and to what I'm hearing with everybody who's working in the AR and VR space. It's solving so much more than I think anyone really expected by just giving people a reality that, like, again, it's mixed, it's virtual, but it's something that they can really latch onto, and it's replicating in a powerful way that drives real world outcomes. So I love also that you said good experiences are better than taking a pill. I think that's the more sophisticated way of saying what I'm trying to say here. We're recording this ahead of the holiday season. I've seen a lot of family the past few weeks, people who I don't see in a long time. So that story about that woman who's like, this made me feel like I was on a trip with my husband from decades back. That really just like touched my heart because, sure, we talk about the real practical applications, but that's so meaningful. I mean, even if it just makes your day to day, like living in reality, a better experience, that's just as powerful as designing new training algorithms or designing new training scenarios like Steven does at VisWorks, or like we even discussed, optimizing spaces for businesses, but also just for like organic collisions, for actually productive interactions. Basically, what we saw when we were at SAS North, and what I think we had some critiques on for other events that we've been at in the past. So, bringing it back to MoVA a little bit, tell me a little bit about some of the work you've been doing and how just the mission at MoVA Realities has evolved even in the past few months since we started speaking.
Mm-hmm. So in the beginning, we definitely started working with the arts and culture space. For example, we were working with Princeton University Art Museum with their Museum for All Ball. So it was one of the biggest fundraising galas annually. So it was really gathering a lot of the museum professionals and donors and really unlock their imagination of what is the future experiences of arts. And later on, also with McCarter Theater with we actually did a fun intermission experience with the Legacy of the Light show. So we would actually take a personality quiz before the show starts, and then they unlock this fun relationship with the cast on the stage. Then they bring themselves into the show and ended up being much more invested and immersed into the story. It actually also speak to a lot of the much more elderly community groups, which is very surprising. We're like, oh, I'm so glad that everyone is like able to access that good experiences that we created. And later on, we get talk to industry leaders, for example, Ernst and Young and Deloitte and Dell and also Burning Man. So it's very interesting how that value of authenticity and accessibility still persist. Like it's still a core value, even though we talk about ROIs a lot, like conversion, retention, and all that stuff. But then you still want to start with telling a good original story to everyone in a room. So we are trying to essentially consolidate that creative value and the human value and turn that into business value. So that is very interesting. And we're also starting conversations with a lot of conference organizers because we're also seeing this challenge of crowd engagement in high traffic areas. How do we turn that into more shared and predictable good experiences? So it was really a process when we're seeing AR VR is more than an engagement technology, but it's actually a system that we can leverage. And we can blend that into the physical settings, which actually comes out naturally as our backgrounds in the architecture, is that we can design an environment, both physically and digitally, that bring us closer and tell a better story and convert better in a business terms.
I love that. And I think that's something I really want to make sure I drive a line under. It's not just the virtual space, not just the digital spaces. It is the physical spaces too. And it's merging those environments so that you can have those experiences. And you can, again, get the creative value plus the human value to actually drive business value. So the VR of it all and the AR of it all helps you maybe stretch the boundaries of what you could do in the physical space, but it's not replacing the physical space. It's enhancing the physical space and it's making it something that people can actually get more value out of it. Whether that is somebody who's just looking for a great creative or arts experience, or it's a business like Boast who goes to a lot of events and conferences and we need to optimize our presence there because it's a big investment to get a booth at one of those shows, but it's what happens around the booth. It's what happens around the event. And that's the things that I think a lot of businesses just take for granted are going to be given when you go to these
Mhm.
events, whereas I think you can really kind of take the wheel and steer all of that. And that's kind of what MoVA it helps teams do. Speaking in the business context, if I'm not misrepresenting you, of course.
No, that's great. Because I always feel like our mission when we speak in very small terms is really helping people start better conversations. So we always feel like when you experience something that wowed you, surprised you, or delightful or rewarding, let's say we can do a scavenger hunt around the booth. We can also do a fun selfie around the booth. Then it could be a chance for the brands to tell their story, and it's also a chance for them to share a piece of personal memory. A lot of times, you can get people to say, like, hey, I've seen something surprising at this booth. Come over. Let's do something fun together. I always feel like that is much more attractive moments that I tend to remember for much, much longer. Is that you turn that curiosity into this spark of connection. And I always think that it always drives a better business outcomes in the end because we're all humans. A lot of times when we think about business, it's easy to kind of boil down into metrics and numbers, but what it really is a lot of emotional decisions, and we still want to be with each other as human beings.
Absolutely. It is still ultimately emotional at the end of the day. I mean, you're not going to go with
I
somebody
truly
who doesn't
believe
give you a
that.
good feel. Like, you don't want to work with that. And even thinking like more cynically about it too, I'm like, I travel for events. I'm not bringing home a bunch of brochures. I'm probably going to throw them out. And then I feel bad about that. And when we are thinking about like things to give away or things we want to like interact with people, I know Bose has some really good bags. So I'm pumped that we're able to do that.
Yes.
But
Yeah, I carry it with me when traveling, and there's so many amazing pockets. Honestly, it was one of the best bags that I have
oh, that
for the
makes me
past
happy.
while.
Okay. I'm like, well, that's good. But I think something that would be even more powerful too is though, like you were saying, appeal to the emotional side of it too. Be like, okay, like we sell what Boast sells is supporting the innovation ecosystem. So I'm thinking about like, what are ways that at events, rather than just having people sit at our booth and talk about us, we can send them to go see examples of the most innovative companies that work with us. Or like, I mean, I'm inventing scenarios. I don't want to put words in your mouth about the realities of what could be done, but like a shred scavenger hunt immediately comes to mind. Like, go find, is this shreddable? Is this something? Engage with them. It's got that emotional value. So it's just like, it's clicking with my marketing brain in a big way. And yeah, this was the kind of excitement that we were kind of jazzing over at the event. And also since we've connected back since. And I totally get it. And I think to your point about with MoVA realities, you talk about how like the world is flooded with content, it's flooded with text, it's flooded with noise. This is also a way to appeal to the emotional side because it's giving people the opportunity to put a personal stamp on their interaction too. Whereas if I'm just giving you a brochure, if I'm just telling you our spiel, or I'm giving you a QR code to learn more, it's very different than if we give you an experience that you can find yourself in and then actually visualize it. So yeah, I could go on for a while. I just see the real value here. And obviously, again, why I want to make sure that we had you on the show. Now, another point I wanted to talk about, and we don't have to go deep into the funding or anything like that, but I mentioned that Tech 2, they were part of the pitch competition. You took the bus down from Toronto to Ottawa. Some members of our team were there. We've also run into you at the rocket ship stage at Toronto City Hall, and you're very, very active in the community. How have you tapped into community to help build MoVA realities? And what has been some of your experiences working with community members to date? I just think it's great when we can talk to founders who take advantage of these ecosystems. And even just hearing that back at Princeton, this is kind of what planted the seed. You got into a community, an accelerator, and you learned a lot. So describe a little bit more about that to me and how that helped contribute to MoVA's mission today.
I really love the term community, and I don't take it as a way of just, people gathering. I really think of it as like intentional connection. A lot of times when I show up at scenarios where there's a lot of like-minded individuals or a lot of ecosystem partners, I would be very excited in the sense that, wow, I would have so much to learn from them. Instead of like, I can pitch to them what I'm doing. I feel like a lot of times when I show up, I just generally feel like excited about what I'm doing. And whenever they talk about struggle, I will be like, wait, what about this? What about that? Then by offering a lot of my natural curiosities and excitement, people learn about who I am and they ask more questions and they want to learn more about MoVA. So it was like a very natural conversation. And it wasn't much as like, oh, I just come to someone and try to pitch my whole brand and be like, well, can you make an introduction? And a lot of times it doesn't work that way. And I really think that when you're truly being present and be a good listener to people who are in conversation with you and really supporting them and have the curiosities towards their business, you will receive the same kind of respect and curiosity in return. And sometimes I will actually meet people that we met maybe a few months ago, or even last year in some other events, and they'll be like, wait, I remember you. You were pitching on stage and like you answered questions like this way. And I was like, wait, how could you remember that? I was actually, it wasn't like a perfect pitch experience, but then I was just so glad that people remember me as like how my energy comes through. So yeah, a lot of times just being present, and also highly recommend if you haven't tried, join some comedy club and do some improv work. It's really gonna help you being grounded in the present and be a good listener and put each other in the frame. Yeah, that has like changed my mindset so much about being in the crowd.
I love that you said that. I went to Emerson College. I went for journalism, but they're known for their entertainment side and for like Jay Leno went there, Jennifer Coolidge went there, Dennis Leary, some of the great improvers of all time.
Mhm.
So I want to emphasize that it's a very underrated skill if you are able to be on your feet, listen, like you were saying. Yes, but also like incorporate it all. I, again, went to school for journalism, print and multimedia, but those improv skills, so invaluable. I think everyone in business needs to do that just because, to your point, it makes you a good listener, makes you quick on your feet. I'm remembering at your pitch competition, I think there was a technical difficulty at one point and you called it out and then
Yeah.
you got everything back on track. And that's what made it really memorable because you're like, if I wasn't able to pick myself up because something went unexpectedly, then that could have completely fallen flat. Instead, you made an impression, and we all were like, "Tell us more." I'm like, "This is somebody who knows how to get their message across," and I thought that was really impressive. And I think along with being able to think on your feet and be responsive like that, I think standing up for yourself as a founder like that too. I think it's very easy to get intimidated, especially in a big room. When you're at Ottawa, you're at the Capitol, the Evan Solomon's walking around, I'm told. There's a bunch of investors everywhere and things like that. You gotta have confidence in what you're presenting. And I think
Mm.
it can be like a little bit of BS sometimes. I don't think MoVA is BS, but I think some companies, I'm like, you're very confident for what sounds like a pretty rudimentary solution in some stages, but those people still get the funding and they still get the chance because they advocated for themselves. So,
Mm.
more of a message to the founders and startup folks in the room, like have that confidence, take an improv class maybe so that you can think on your feet
Yes.
and not be on the back pedal, but that is a new piece of advice that we haven't had on the show before. So, wanted to call that one back out.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. So next piece, I want to know. We've talked a lot about how MoVA has come to be, what the kind of genesis of it was, about how you leverage the community. It started as a cross-disciplinary mission at the end of the day, and now you're serving. Again, I think you said Dell, EY, and I just blanked.
Deloitte.
Burning Man.
Burning
That
Man.
was that was the other one. I'm like, you're really merging a lot of disparate. I don't think I've ever heard Dell EY and Burning Man in one conversation before. So like again, props and kudos. But what's next for your team? What do you guys have on the roadmap? Where are you guys going to be going next for 2026?
So we are really looking at the conference space in the sense that this is really a space that people want to have good conversation, and it ties a lot to the business outcomes. I think this is like a good step for us to validate some of our next like products. It was like a predictable engagement engine. So essentially, we can analyze the floor plan and optimize it, and also plant those augmented reality activation points so it can really guide people through the venue and to the sponsors. So it really increase those likelihoods of having good conversations and conversions and really boost the sales cycles and everything. So yeah, we are in conversation with several organizers. Can't really discuss the names, but they're very local and they're very active in Toronto. So it was definitely active planning times in Q1 next year. And we are going to, a lot of them are talking about this challenge in navigation. And I just have this huge, I don't know, like my head just started running as soon as people say navigation. I'll be like, wait, I study architecture. I know how spatial planning works. I know how to guide people into a certain spots or like influence their behaviors by arranging the rooms just slightly different. So then that like our expertise really adds this like very interesting solution to their current challenges. So I'm so excited to explore that with them and then seeing how that formula can transform foot traffic into revenue for a lot of the high traffic spaces. So like pop-up stores and retail and also like airports and stadiums, like these are all the spaces that we're super excited about. But yeah, in the next year, we're definitely going to focus on like large events and conferences and building those relationships and really understanding and supporting them with what we know. That is like creative problem solving. That's what we love.
Oh, I love that. So again, predictable engagement engine. Want to call that back out because that's what's being developed.
Yes.
And again, so if you're speaking my language, I've told you, along with even the events, I spend a lot of time in airports. Everyone, it's so disparate. Why is no one reading from the same like architecture and design guides in terms of just like flow? I'm like, I need to get to my terminal. I digress. But basically, I've had some ones, and I cannot wait for you to address that problem for us at scale globally. We've also talked about the events. I'm not going to name names, but I go to a lot of events up in Toronto. We're going to be crossing paths certainly again over the next calendar year, which I'm excited about. And I can't wait to see the work you've done because it ain't my first rodeo. I've seen some great ones, I've seen some bad ones. And oof, I know we were talking shop about optimization previously. I know it's going to be great. So you'll be hearing more about the success that Sophie's bringing into the new year here and on every Boast feed. So love that one. Now, Sophie, the new question for the show, which I think you can probably anticipate. We don't know who the next guest is going to be, but what question should I ask the next amazing tech innovator or founder or startup, just ecosystem player who's going to join me on What Their Tech?
I would ask a question that actually I have been asking myself a lot, and I'm so curious about what others would be thinking. Is that what is the biggest limiting thoughts of you yourself personally that you have overcome that changes the business that you are leading? And it was a loaded question. I probably can phrase it more succinctly, but it's like, okay, maybe some of your personal limiting thoughts that, yeah, you overcome for to be a better leader for the business.
Yeah, like what were blockers? They like what was a negative thought in your mind that you had to get around to actually get
Mhm.
this business out the ground? I love that.
It's very personal, but sometimes I
Yeah,
feel like, you're the person that's running the business. There is a certain level of self-awareness, and you need to do the reflection and be a better person for yourself and for the business. So I hope they enjoyed the question.
I agree completely. And again, this goes back to what we were saying earlier too. It's a lot about attitude and confidence, but it's not necessarily about being overconfident. It's about really knowing your limitations and not pushing yourself to the point where you're not even mentally well anymore. Like you need to make sure that you are actually taking care of yourself and not letting negative thoughts get the best of you and not impeding and fogging your vision because you probably started with a different vision that this thought process or whatever it is nagging at you in the back of your head is just going to be a drag on. So I love that. I'm like, I'm going to bring that probably to more than just the next guest because I think that is a good one for the
Exciting.
yeah. So Sophie, you're already changing the game for the What the Tech podcast, but this is fantastic. I cannot thank you enough. Listeners, again, follow Sophie, follow MoVA Realities. I'm going to have all the details in the blog post and on the socials here, but This is fantastic. I can't wait for a great 2026, and I can't wait to tell this story and also hear more as we cross paths over the event circuit over the next year.
Yeah, thank you so much, Paul. It was such a fun conversation. I feel like every time we chat, it was always like it was a great burst of energy, and especially in winter days, I appreciate that and appreciate the opportunity to feature MoVA and allow us to tell our stories.
Oh, absolutely. And like, apologize to you and to the listeners. I'm coming off of a pretty bad cold right now. So if whoever's watching the video is going to see a very red nose, I'm just bringing Rudolph vibes to this, but this brightened up my very, very dreary winter afternoon. So I cannot thank you enough, Sophie. And again, we'll make sure that everyone knows how to get in touch with you to learn more about MoVA. And we're going to make this a fantastic mission going forward. So thank you so
Thank
much.
you so much.